Welcome back. We are here with your Astro Tarot forecast. I am Emily, the Voluptuous Witch, here as always with Tatianna Tarot.
Hi.
And we're so excited to talk to you about the astrology and some of just the energy of what is happening this week.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some really good astrology. Midweek, there is a really sweet connection that is happening between Venus and the North Node. And, this is going to be like, if you think of the North Node as fate and destiny, and Venus as connection, love, sweetness, our values, beauty, Venus connecting with the North Node is like a really beautiful opportunity in love, in connecting with people we really care about. Also prosperity. Venus is a money planet. Sometimes we forget that she's a prosperity planet.
Totally.
So definitely, if you know your chart, think about the part of your chart that has Leo in it. That's where it will be impacting. But just generally, this gives kind of like a sweet, destined feeling to the week. And we have forward motion. Mercury is now not only direct, but back in Virgo and in Virgo until the end of the month. So all this kind of, yes, especially for our Virgos, like, Virgo rising, Mercury in Virgo, like if you have important planets in Virgo, it's especially good. But really for all of us, because Virgo has this very detail-oriented quality that allows us to get a lot done and at a high level. But during the retrograde, it might have been more about problems. Now it can be fully productive. Like we can really go forward. Like all the things we sort of saw that we want to fix or change or get in order, like kind of everything that's been brewing that we know we need to get in order. We have this time of the rest of the month of Mercury in Virgo to really do that, so that's really great. And then just the reminder that we're in our last few weeks of Jupiter in Libra. So for our Libras, our Libra risings, and just for all of us in general to know if the Libra part of your chart, Jupiter will be there until October 11th. And then Jupiter's going to move into Scorpio, which is like huge news for our Scorpios, or anyone with important Scorpio in your chart. And that'll be a big shift. So we can talk about that more when it's on the way, but we're headed towards some sign changes. December, Saturn will go into Capricorn. That's going to be really important. That's Saturn's home sign. So it's going to be a very strong, Saturn era, like back to fundamentals, back to basics, hard work.
Getting ready for 2018.
Absolutely. Getting ready for 2018 and like really foundational things. So we're going to be piece by piece moving a little bit away from some of the elemental balance we've had of that air and fire, and moving toward water and earth. So we're moving towards some shifts, and we'll kind of talk more in detail about that as it gets closer, but that's what we're headed towards. So that's kind of a more balanced, more comfortable vibe for you, then that's ahead. So yeah.
Totally stoked. Really, really quick question, because I was just curious. Jupiter excites me. Jupiter going into Scorpio, that sounds intense. How often does Jupiter transition into its next sign? Is that like once a year type situation, or does it travel more frequently?
Totally. It is. That's exactly right. Jupiter will be in Scorpio from October 2018 to November 2019. And then we'll move into Sag, and that's on this. So yes, it's about a year. It's slightly over a year. And so Jupiter in Scorpio being intense, I would say is correct. Because Jupiter, of course, is a planet of expansion, making things bigger, making things definitely more abundant, more generous. but of course, Jupiter and Scorpio is going to have a very different flavor than Jupiter in Libra. So it's definitely more about the depth, like depth, intensity. Scorpio is very much like sex, hard work, honesty, truth, and merging, really deep connections. So Jupiter in Scorpio is really like any water in your chart, for all of our water signs. This is really beautiful because, a trine, that means Jupiter will be trine, at some point during the cycle, your water planets. And so essentially that's just like a very beautiful flowing, expansive influence. So it can be a really beautiful blessing, for certain parts of our chart, but then definitely some of the energies that are like not quite as compatible with Scorpio, like say you're like a Gemini, or like some of the energies that are just like pretty different. Then, that Jupiter can kind of hit us in a little, slightly more challenging way, but we all, we all get our turn. So some people have had that going on with Jupiter and Libra, even though that sounds really sweet, but like not for everybody.
Right. So should we be looking at the aspects of our chart that are in Scorpio to see where it's going to most affect us, kind of?
Definitely. It's really good to watch always, I think, where Saturn is in your chart and where Jupiter is, like just kind of keeping a handle on that. Because if you think about where Saturn is where you're kind of going to school, where it's like, this is the stuff you have to do. It's where it's trying to level you up through hard work. But then the part of your chart that Jupiter's transiting, so then that will be the Scorpio part of our charts. That's where you have like luck and blessings, and where things can go unusually well, with not necessarily as much effort. It's kind of like we're lucky there. The flip side of that is it can be excess. Jupiter is where we can go to excess. So, everything has its balance, but it's really good to know where Jupiter is to kind of have awareness of like, oh, this is a really good year to, like, if Jupiter is transiting your second house, that's great financial year, building resources, making more money, feeling good about yourself.
For real. Oh my God. Okay.
And so you kind of, to kind of look like in that way, so that for that house. And then that's some of what we do, like when I'm doing readings, is to sort of like zoom in on, okay, where are the opportunities, where are the challenges. It just kind of helps keep things in perspective. If you have a Scorpio rising, for example, this is a great year. The year that Jupiter is in your rising sign is super expansive, like for yourself, for your relationship. So it's just really good to know, because then we can kind of be like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of that. Or Jupiter in the seventh house.
Aspects. Definitely. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. That's why people hire astrologers, entrepreneurs and celebrities and everything, because then they know when to launch things,
Totally. A really good example of that is Katy Perry. Katy Perry. I don't think she has one. And I never say anything bad about, I don't want to say bad things about celebrities. And this is not like to not be nice to Katy Perry, but just as an example, she has a ton of, I'm thinking of her because of Scorpio. She has a ton of Scorpio in her chart. And when she put her album out, I was like, she does not have an astrologer, because she should not have been making an album until Jupiter got to Scorpio. She did it like just a little early, like with Jupiter and Libra. It was just, and it was just one of those things where I'm like, see, if she had an astrologer, they could have just been like, wait 9 months, and like all the luck will like be on your side. So there's certain things like that where there's just like, it could just go better,
More
like
fluid, because what was it? Was this this girl, Taylor Swift, that dropped something on that day or something ridiculous I had read somewhere. I was like, oh my God.
Interesting. You know what's so funny is I didn't look at the astrology of that, but that's actually, and I've never looked at her chart. Like, I'm not that familiar with her astrology or anything, but that's probably a really good example. Like when something happens and there's scandal, like immediate scandal, usually it's like, oh, that, like would have been we can't avoid everything in life, or we can't avoid every challenge or every conflict. But certain things like that you plan, sometimes people do things on days that are really bad for them astrologically. And it's just like, it would have just been, better to know. And sometimes we know things and we still do whatever. But I feel like for big launches, for you have an exciting project that you're working on and you want to, even some things I'm excited about for like the new year, for example, it's like I already start thinking about, good dates and times that are like really,
absolutely.
when you want to pick those favorable times.
Okay. And I'm like inundating you with so many questions, but this one quick question.
Yeah.
So when we're doing ritual work, when we're doing a lot of hoodoo work or even candle magic,
yes,
a lot of people correspond their intentions and their candle colors to specific days of the week. Astrologically, like Venus, like you mentioned, is a great day for abundance. Friday is ruled by Venus. Does that apply astrologically, or is that more of like a magic concept, do you believe? Like, so we should be really corresponding to do things, if it's money or beauty related, let's focus on Fridays only. Do you feel like that holds validity in any way?
I do think it does. I think it does because those correlations have existed for so long, and I think that there's traditional wisdom that is like that makes sense and is real, and those associations of the days of the week, they are real and they do make sense. I think that makes sense. I think then sometimes you can also just add it, or definitely does. I think sometimes we can just also, if we have an interest in astrology, we can also add in another layer of like where, for example, I think there's a lot of opportunity for ritual based on our personal charts. Like when we have our own Venus return, when Venus gets back to the place where our natal Venus is, or like our own Mars return. Like your Mars return is a great time to plan the next 2 years. Because
really? All my ears perked up as a Virgo, like planning next year.
100% Mars return, because it's like that's like your, of course, it's like our drive and our energy and everything like that. It's like how we go do things in the world. And so when Mars gets back to that point where it is in your natal chart, then it's like, okay, then it's kind of like this fresh, like that return point. And it'll take about 2 years to get back to that same place. So that's a good time to plan. So I think I know I'm like kind of slightly getting off topic. I definitely do agree about the days of the week. I think that makes sense. And then I think there's also kind of like these other additional opportunities that we have on our own personal chart. Like if you're a Scorpio, do that ritual for when Jupiter goes into Scorpio, right? Like mark it, ritualize it, like for abundance, for example, Jupiter being so connected to abundance, or just
I'm sure there's got to be a book out with that, astrology and rituals in your own chart, or how to teach. My brain's steaming right now. I'm like, oh my god, I learn how to read my chart, because then I'm just gonna be like a kitchen witch all day doing things left and right.
Definitely. I know. What's so interesting is like, I don't know if I ever have actually specifically seen a book about it, although I'm sure it does exist, like specifically about that. But I think that is part of like why I got excited to start making classes and doing things like that, because I feel like for people to kind of know their own charts better, and then work with things like this, because it just takes like a certain amount of introduction, and then you can kind of at least, even if you're like, oh, I don't necessarily want to become an astrologer, that you can work with all these things.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. It's a lifelong practice, and I feel like it's very mathematical.
Yeah.
But in a appealing way, it's just like so many shapes and angles. This
Totally.
can
It's
interact with this, can interact. It's like chemistry to me too, you get different
mm,
reactions.
totally. That's
So,
very wise. It's true. It really is because like the elements, it's like these elemental interactions and interactions based on degree and completely. Yeah.
okay, we've been yapping your ears off.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. This needs to be a podcast for real. Like, we need to launch and talk more about that because then that would be really, really interesting for us to dig into.
Definitely. I would love that.
Oh, Lord. You see what happens? We're always coming up with ideas.
Yes.
Um, okay, so I received a lot of good feedback. We received a lot of good feedback for the last video, and also in regards to the medicine cards that we pulled. So I'm going to be pulling that out. They're wicked
Okay.
awesome. So
Yeah.
I never use these cards. I don't know why I have so much. And they just sit in the back burner. So I'm happy to whip them out. But like something's telling me to just check up on the tarot real quick in regards to this week. So, and they've been flying out like crazy today. Let's see, Spirit. What does Spirit will us to do this week with the information that we have just received from Emily? Okay. What is our most valuable asset? What should we most be working with during this time for our success, to manifest what we most desire, and to work in harmony with the energy of the cosmos? Okay. Interesting. Oh, tell me. Don't tell me. Okay, so this is assets. And it's funny because none of these cards are asset cards, which kind of tells us there's massive, massive things happening this week in terms of breakthrough, liberation, clarity. So let's just dive into it. 8 of Swords. All right, in terms of what Spirit has to let us know regarding the cosmic energies and falling in alignment with it. Well, it seems like 8 of Swords is kind of telling us we've been pent up, held back for some time, at least mentally. When we're talking about the swords, we're talking about the element of air. We're talking about the way we perceive the world around us, the way we perceive ourselves in the world. Our logic, sensibilities, and our rationalities, or rationale. But this is blocked. This is clearly blocked. Or there's an inability to really see the facts or see how we've participated in things. So I feel like this isn't a negative card, so to speak. This is kind of telling me that there's more emotional nourishment now coming into play, because she is standing on a floor that has like no water, and water is a conduit to spirit. It's a conduit to the creative arts and whatnot. Our, ¿cómo se dice? Sensuality, sexuality. So things that give us a life, things that feed us, things that help us sustain our manifestation dreams and goals. I feel like this is now coming into play, that this sort of 8 of Swords energy is now dying down. And so we are finding ourselves now more responsible, more accountable for our lives. We're now revealing is not the right word, taking out the veil, so to speak. We're seeing the truth of what we are, seeing how we've held ourselves back and limited ourselves in any way. As you can notice, there's a castle in this background that she's kind of keeping herself away from, but isn't quite mindful that it's so close. She is kind of also walking a little bit closer to this particular sword, which is their sword of liberation. So some of you that have been achieving or trying to like reach the finish line or reach some sort of clarity, some sort of closure, you will be receiving that this week. We will be seeing that in the weeks to come. So, don't fret. But really, really super interesting. We see a sense of motion in this card, even though it's not clear motion. There's fogginess in the background, and there's a sense of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know if I can trust myself. I really, really feel bounded right now. There is some sort of action that gives us hope, that gives us faith. I was going to say what is interesting is that it's almost the same circumstance with the Eight of Cups, where, okay, nothing is illuminated as such. We do see the unity of the sun and the moon up here, which is a rare situation because we're getting the clarity of the sun action, feeling feeling compelled to take physical action, and also the internal sense of guidance from the moon, our intuition, now marrying each other. Like, this is divine timing for you to make this transition. But the transition is kind of unknown. We don't know where this character is going. He doesn't have a blueprint. He doesn't have a map. He just knows that he's somewhat dissatisfied, and he knows there's better things out there. So there's movement in this card as well, pointing to better horizons that you need to seek out for yourself, that only you can know which direction to go on a very intuitive, personal, and intimate way. It's not going to be logical. Your logic is blocked right now. This is opening up for you, though, only if you open up your heart and open up your spiritual, emotional sensibilities. So it's really interesting because there are 2 8 cards. An 8 is it's a card of abundance. It is a card of financial prosperity, abundance, whatever. So we do see, that being conducive to the Venus in your North Node popping up. But also it is a card, it is a number of karma. And what you project is what you get back. So I intuitively feel like you're clearing this karma. There is a path that's being made for you, that you're going to feel successful. You're going to feel abundant, or abundant in spirit, abundant in psychic and intuitive energy, for you to kind of lead yourself out of that. And through that kind of wandering in the unknown, you will get the mental clarity you need. You will get the logical clarity you need. Final card with the tarot, for some reason I had to pull out 3 cards. Final card is the 4 of Pentacles. And again, this is corresponding to how we should align ourselves with the cosmic energy. 4 of Pentacles is telling us, don't rush things right now. Take your time. Start building a new foundation. Start thinking about what you've been investing in and what you need to let go of. Start thinking of things that have not nourished you, or maybe obsessive thoughts, OCD, things that you've been like marinating on for some time, excuses you've been making for yourself, limitations you've been setting up. And also, focus on investments. I feel like maybe some of us have been storing up our time and our energy, or saving up for something that is to come that you're not quite certain that is going to appear unexpectedly. So this is kind of telling us to loosen up, let go, and let God come, kind of, because he's hoarding his heart chakra. He's blocking it. Kind of like, this is mine. And so we're not allowing ourselves to be receptive to divine. We're not allowing ourselves to pick up on any sort of insight that can be coming in, or gifts or blessings that are coming in. It is a time to build. It is also a time to think about investing, even in terms of time and energy. What else do you have to say to us? 4 of Pentacles. I guess you know what? It's kind of telling me to be selfish. So it is a little bit of a weird balance here, where you got to know not to keep too much to yourself, to open up, but at the same time, know when to step back and say, all right, this is my time and space. It's time to build. I need sacred time. I'm going back into the cave type of situation. It is okay to be selfish. You need to be selfish because something in you is dying. Something in you is being massively released. And until you figure out your new sense of grounding and identity, you don't have much to give to others, or what you will be giving to others isn't as authentic. So hopefully that resonates with you. Topping it off, animal medicine cards. Spirit, which animal can best direct us this week? Give us the truth on which animal is our best guide, can give us clear insight. Okay, this is funny because within this deck we have a couple of, so let me let this down. Within this deck we have a couple of animals that we get to kind of fill in the blank and choose to put in the deck that don't already correspond to the deck. So I chose ladybug as one of the animals. Then let me just look up the spiritual meaning of ladybug. I know when I see ladybugs, I see it as a symbol of hope, as a symbol of good luck and beauty. But let me read this officially to give you more insight.
Awesome.
Ladybug animal totem has long been considered a symbol of luck. If one lands on you, you should consider yourself and your future prospects extremely fortunate. If you have made any wishes recently or have desired changes, this creature is working for you to make them come true. Asian traditions focus on the nature of love when looking at a ladybug, and they believe that if you catch one and set it free, it will fly to your true love. Ladybugs bring you great friends. It is also a symbol of love. It is recognized as a symbol of protection in Ireland. But most importantly, when it appears in your life or when it pops up, it is an omen of great luck. Wishes and dreams are about to be fulfilled. Your life is going to be changed in a massive way. So prepare yourself. Make the opportunity and take the opportunity to reach new heights and strive for higher goals. Allow your worries and inhibitions to flutter away with the winds and accept the new happiness that is to come about. Do not rush or push these exciting things in your life. They will come organically. Allow them to come at their natural pace and all will be well. It symbolizes that with patience, all will work out. It also symbolizes that you can leave your worries behind. Never be afraid to trust yourself and live your own truth boldly. As you can tell, many ladybugs are either yellow or red, and they have those bright colors with the black dots on them. So that's very much of like, I'm an individual here. You've noticed me. Ladybugs are also very highly inquisitive and spiritual by nature and are drawn to like-minded people. Okay, when they're not satisfied, they fly away. And they will never land on people who do not match with them. Interesting. So just bear that in mind during this transformation that the ladybug is serving you. I had to read that, so I don't know if you were like, but it's funny because I never get a card that I have to fill in the blanks myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. In my deck, I actually have never filled in the blank cards. Like they've just always been blank. And because I have that deck too. And it's inspiring me to fill them in. And I love that you put ladybug. I feel like that was kind of one of the first really symbolic connections like I had as a child, you know, because I knew that since I was little of like ladybugs being good luck. And I would always, you know, it is really sweet when a ladybug lands on you. I once lived in this house that was like full of ladybugs, which is really unusual. This was years ago. But that's just beautiful, like beautiful choice.
I know. Thank you. I don't know what inspired me to fill them in because I would have been like you and just like leaving it blank. But I was like, oh my God, ladybugs is a totem that needs to be here. I think I filled one in with the octopus too. I see the octopus, the elephant. So many animals were not included in this deck. You know?
Definitely. I know. And the octopus is so magical, or that's my understanding of the octopus, has a lot to do with magic, with magical powers and then boundaries.
I would believe so. If you think about it, they can it's like regeneration, right? They grow back their tentacles really easily. Or they stay moving after it's chopped off or something bizarre like that. So I see it as that as
Interesting.
well.
Hmm.
Oh my God. But this has been an amazing connection.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. I feel like that it's really useful, and the eights are so interesting. It's really helpful to hear you talk about them because I like my life path number is 8, and I know it's interesting. I very rarely associate that, which doesn't make any sense. But when I pull cards for myself, I very rarely associate that with the eights because they feel so much about um, challenge, and I forget that they also are connected to abundance. Like how, it's just interesting how it's nice to hear the layers and kind of.
Yeah. Well, not to be that person that's like abundance doesn't come easily. But if you think about it in terms of playing a video game and you're trying to reach this huge grand prize, but the last thing you have to do is like overcome this difficult step, this challenging step, or beat the monster, or learn a valuable lesson, like find the freaking key, like type of situation. It leads to all this abundance because you put in the work and you put in the effort, or you've gotten some sort of illuminating lesson learned that has allowed you to enjoy the abundance. Also, with the karma, the 8 and the number karma, things are starting, things are ending. And a lot of the 8 cards are like in transition, like trying to figure out your path, even though things are a little eerie and unknown.
Yes.
So, really, really interesting. I do feel like overall, this is not something that most people have to dwell on in terms of the negative, like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. Everything is going to be presented at the right divine time. And it is really a week of magic with the ladybug,
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tatiana.
Thank you.
This is wonderful. And we hope you'll, let us know how the video resonates with you, what you're thinking as you watch. If you're interested in booking a reading, it's a great time to do it. It's the perfect time of year for like year ahead readings because it gives really good idea how to close out the year, and then clarity on kind of what's up ahead, which can kind of inform our actions in this next little chunk of months, like kind of knowing what's ahead in 2018. So it's a great time to book a reading. If you're interested, you can go to my website, thevoluptuouswitch.com, or follow me on Instagram, also The Voluptuous Witch, to stay in touch. And what about you, Tatiana?
You can also find me on my website, myurbanillumination.com. Click under the Work With Me tab. I am about to head to maternity leave this Saturday the 16th, so I am booking anything prior to that. Or if you still want to book in advance, I should be leaving coming back mid November to the end of November. That's when I'll be jumping back in the game for in-person sessions or face-to-face. I am working a situation out where I'm intending to do some email readings or some voice and audio readings, so I don't have to really see you, but I'll be sending you my interpretation of the cards that way in between that time. But yeah, everything's on my website. You can check it out there, and you can follow us on social media as well. I am Tatianna Tarot with 2 N's on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And Emily?
The Voluptuous Witch on Instagram, on Facebook, also on Twitter. I think on Twitter I'm just Voluptuous Witch. The
Yes.
Voluptuous Witch
Yes.
doesn't fit.
I tried that. I was like, duh. Why isn't she popping up?
It's too long. Too long a word. Yes. So wonderful. I'm so glad we could do this. Thank you for connecting, and this was really fun.
You guys rock. Feel free to share, subscribe, like, and let us know what's going on in your world astrologically this week, what corresponds to you, what's the magic going on, how it relates. We want to know, definitely.
Thank
And we will patch, inshallah, next week if the baby's not here.
you. Yes.
We'll see.
Oh my goodness. The
Okay, peace,
suspense. Okay, we'll see you next week.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.